With a virtual reality video game, you can become any character, have the best romance, participate in the most extreme adventures, you name it. Who would choose reality over that? In this movie, people lose themselves until they cannot tell which is the game and which is real, or when the game ends. Reality has lost to the virtual, but is fighting back. Let's find out more in the following movie. There is a new VR game, eXistenZ. The test audience has been chosen to plug in their MetaFlesh game pods to the actual portal of the world-famous game designer Allegra Geller. She shyly goes on stage in a church and welcomes them to the game. They choose 12 participants to test round 1, who join her on stage. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Ted Pykool is screening audience members, scanning them for weapons and electronic devices, and he lets one last latecomer enter. To play the game, you need a hole drilled into your spine, connecting your CNS with the umbilical cord for the pod. I think I'm all set. Give me Pac-Man. They call this new orifice a bioport, and all gamers have one. As Allegra is downloading the game, the newcomer, a realist, takes out a bone gun and calls out, "Death to the demoness Allegra Geller," then shoots her in the shoulder. He also shoots the master of the ceremonies before he is shot many times by security. The MC tells Ted to take Allegra Geller to safety and trust no one. He grabs her and the bone gun, then drives away in his car. Ted is just a marketing trainee. She tells him to stop so he can remove the bullet from her shoulder, which is a tooth. The gun used could get through any security because it was made of organics. Once they check into a hotel, she is fondling her pod, and he asks where she went. She tells Ted she went into the world of eXistenZ, the whole system, because she's comfortable there. She gets up and checks his back and sees he doesn't have a bioport. He doesn't want one and is not interested in playing video games. He has a phobia about the risk to his spine, but she reminds him once you're ported, there is no limit to the games you can play and how real they will seem. She tells him he must test eXistenZ with her because she needs to see how much damage her pod received. He agrees to get ported, so they drive to her underground port installer connection, GAS, at a local gas station. At first, he pretends to not know anything, but when he finds out she is the famed game designer, he kisses her feet. He explains how she changed his life. Once, he was only a garage mechanic, but since her games, even being a man is the most menial part of his existence now. As Geller is waiting outside, she looks around, touches things, and sees a baby two-headed dragon creature that she plays with. Aww, so cute. Ted has changed his mind and doesn't want the invasive procedure, but Geller tells him without the port he lives a caged existence with only limited opportunities and an inferior reality. Peer pressure. Well, okay then, sign me up. He uses a bolt gun device to drive the plug through Ted's spine. Ouch. It has its own epidural, so he is paralyzed from the waist down for a while. She wants to plug him in immediately and even uses grease for an easy slip-in. But once he touches the pod, it shorts out and explodes. Geller is panicking, saying the game is worth $38 million, and the only copy is inside that Metapod. It is like her baby, and is now broken. Gas enters with a gun, claiming responsibility for the faulty portal. Since there is a $5 million reward for her body, and a bonus for destroying her newest game, he is going to kill her. She asks him if he could handle a real corpse, the decomposition, and if he believes he'll really get paid. After all, this is reality, not a movie. But before he can shoot her, Ted blasts him in the neck with the body port gun, and he's out. They realize they need help and drive to her old mentor, Kiri, a bioelectrical surgeon who is working out of a ski lodge. Because nobody actually physically skis anymore, it's all virtual. Outside, Ted notices the baby dragon, and Geller explains it's a mutant of several reptile creatures, a sign of the times. She tells Kiri about her death threats and asks his help in fixing her pod. He agrees to let her stay indefinitely and not tell Antenna headquarters. While watching the surgery on the pod, Ted learns it is started with fertilized frog eggs, then transfused with synthetic DNA. and uses viscera and organ parts from reptiles and amphibians to attach symbiotically to a human's neural bioport. This gives them the most realistic game experience. Ted asks where the batteries go and learns that the human biochemical system gives it energy. So, Kiri repairs Ted's bioport, and when he complains it itches, Geller sticks her finger into it, making Ted angry. He agrees to play again, and immediately they are in a game depot. Ted cannot believe how real and wonderful his body feels. They are shown a tiny insertable micropod. Darcy Nader, the game proprietor, introduces himself and says they are made by Cortical Systems. Darcy asks who sent them, and Ted aggressively says, "None of your business." But that was his game character taking over. They have free will in the game, but only enough to make it interesting. Participants must succumb to the urges of their game avatar. They also need to use proper dialogue for the characters to respond. Darcy gives them their new identities and tells them to put the micropods in their bioports, where they are sucked right into their spines. Darcy was their entry point, but Geller is disappointed at the authenticity of his persona. Ted's avatar is very attractive to Geller's, and vice versa. They cannot help but kiss each other. They are affectionate for a while, but Ted said he is worried about his real body. Geller assures him they are lying on a bed, safe and sound. Ted arrives at his new identity, which is a gutter at a trout farm. Yevgeny Nourish explains that the factory's job is to remove the guts of the mutated amphibians to be used to make metapods for their company, Cortical. Nourish tells him to have lunch at the Chinese restaurant and order the special and insist on it. Ted goes downstairs to deliver gut packets and finds Geller. He tries to speak with her as a person, but she remains in character. He tells her their contact told them where to have lunch, so the two leave together. He orders the special, and when the waiter agrees, all others at the table leave. Ted is having a meltdown and calls for the game of existence to pause. They awaken on the bed, and he confides in Geller that reality doesn't feel natural, and she asks if he wants to go back because there is nothing interesting happening here. He is reluctant, but agrees. The special arrives and is a conglomeration of mutated reptiles and amphibians, and they are disgusted by it. It's a delicacy, looks yummy, and blends with the culture. Ted's character cannot stop eating it, and with each creature he deskins, he reveals a bone part that can be assembled together into a gun. Is this from the IKEA's Roadkill collection? It is the bone gun used to shoot Geller at the focus group. He points it at Geller, who is not amused. He says he has the urge to kill the Chinese waiter, so Geller calls him over. The waiter is so nice, but Ted cannot control himself and shoots him. Immediately, the waiter brandishes a knife, but Geller throws her soup and Ted fires the gun again. The waiter is out, and Ted tells the rest of the people in the restaurant to just return to enjoying their meals, so they do. Nourish helps them escape through the kitchen and describes to them how Cortical owns the land to breed mutants for use in their metapods, but they taste good too, hence the restaurant. They are also using them to make hypoallergenic, undetectable weapons against their enemy, Cortical Systems. He is an undercover realist agent trying to destroy this alternate reality company from the inside. The realist movement wants to end the world's obsession with VR games. He congratulates Ted and Geller for passing the test for the realist cause. After that, they return to the game store and ask clerk Hugo Carlaw where Darcy is. He leads them to Darcy, who is out. Hugo shows the gun and tells them they made a big mistake killing the Chinese waiter because he was their contact. Darcy and Nourish were double agents working for Cortical. At this point, Ted wants out of the game. He says he doesn't know who the enemy is, what is really going on, or what he is supposed to do next. They seem to be just stumbling around not knowing what the point is, and unknown forces are trying to hurt them. Hey, just like real life. Back at the trout farm, they find an infected pod. Geller's character wants to plug into it so she can catch the infection and destroy all the pods being built at the farm. However, once connected, she gets very sick. Ted tries to save her by cutting the cord, but this causes her to bleed out. Nourish appears shouting, "Death to realism," then uses a flamethrower to burn the infected pod, but spores burst out of it, infecting all the pods at the factory anyway. He gets hurt, and before he can hurt Geller, he falls to the ground, igniting the whole trout farm. They are transported back to the ski lodge. Geller is upset to see they brought the disease back with them and looks at her pod, which is sick and dying. She figures out Carrie must have installed an infected bioport in Ted to destroy her game. Luckily, she has some sporicide to inject into Ted in her pod. They wonder how a game can alter reality. Are they still in the game? Suddenly, a soldier for the realist resistance blasts in and tells them the uprising has begun. He knows Geller is not actually a realist, but a premier game designer, their ultimate enemy, and he is about to kill her when Carrie shoots him from behind. Carrie tells her he copied her existence game. It's not gone, but she needs to work for Protocol to get it back. She shoots him. Ted cannot believe she killed someone over a game, but she insists he's not real. Ted says it was no accident. They were on the run together. He is a realist and always planned to kill her. Geller says she knew it all along and takes out a mini detonator and blows him away. Suddenly, she is wearing blue headgear, and she and all the characters are back to the 12-person game testing round at the church. The participants share their opinions and joke around about all the experiences that happened during the game. Geller wasn't really a game designer. They all lead other lives. It was actually Yevgeny Nourish who designed the game called Transcendence. The participants said the 30 minutes they played seemed like days, and it is so much more fun than the real world. As everyone is getting ready to leave, Nourish confides to his partner that he was disturbed by the anti-game plot the participants created. He really felt threatened by the plot twists. Just then, Ted and Geller approach with their dog. They tell him he is the greatest game designer. But why does he think it is all right to destroy the realities of so many people on Earth? They really are extreme realists. They tell him he needs to be punished for all the harm he has done to the human race with his games. The two then take out guns and shoot him and his partner for causing the most deforming of people's reality. They scream, "Death to Yevgeny Nourish! Death to Transcendence!" The people at the church don't react at all. It seems normal to them. They walk up to the Chinese waiter, and he says, "You don't have to shoot me, but wait, be honest, are we still in the game?" I have no words for this one. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below.